Guys, I usually go off the rails at the end of the third hour and get into comedy because this stuff is too heavy for me sometimes. I mean, it gets to me. I know reality gets to you. But I am, sick and tired of the so-called left, who are really a bunch of authoritarians, trying to set the agenda and boss everyone around. And once they've gotten you to be dominated by them through political correctness, peer pressure, mind control, cult tactics, then they can get you to comply with whatever social norm they want. And that is basically slitting your wrist and giving everything you've got to the kleptocratic, corrupt system. I mean, an example of this is I was working out with a buddy this morning. We were not being loud. And another fellow that has a French bulldog came in that I know. And his French bulldog had been chasing balls and jumping off stuff and hurt its neck. Because if you get an athletic French bulldog, most of them aren't athletic, but his dog's athletic and my dog's athletic. They'll jump off fences. They'll jump over things. They'll run into walls. They have huge heads. And he was about 10 feet away going, hey, my dog's better. How's your dog? And I was saying, yeah, he's doing a lot better. He's pretty much 100% back from blowing one of his discount. And I was talking about this loud. Oh, hey, yeah, Tom. Oh, good. Your dog's doing better. Ziggy's doing better. Yeah, Captain's doing better. He's pretty much 100%. Oh, yeah, I've got him staying with my parents sometimes when I go out of town. But, yeah, he's 100. Oh, really? Your parents are keeping your dog for a couple of weeks. We go out of town, too? And this woman walks right over and goes, be quiet. And I said, this is a gym, not a library. But I said, I'm not even yelling. I'm talking 10 feet away to that guy in this voice right now. Well, at first I said, oh, okay. I said, and she was bugging her eyes out at me. And I said, are you serious? She said, yeah, I'm serious. Be quiet. And I was sitting there and I said, well, I'm not being that loud. This isn't a library. And I said, what's your name? And she wouldn't give me her name. And I smiled at her. And then she said her name. And I said, mine. And I smiled at her again. And then she just gave me dirty looks for the next hour. And would, walk in my space. And one of my buddies was like, man, I think she's trying to pick you up or something. And I was like, no, she's not. I talked to somebody else at the gym that says she does that to other men. And she wants you to shut up. She wants to dominate you. And it's this basic assertiveness training that they're giving women now. And, of course, if they asserted themselves in business being charming and going and playing golf with men and, not making up sexual harassment on everybody and not, playing games, they would be successful. And that's the real reason women on average are not paid as much as men. They've got insurance actuaries out on it now that they tend to leave for maternity leave. They tend to want to take off when they have family problems. And that's fine. I totally get it and understand on average. And there are a lot of great women better than men in business. I'm just saying as a stereotype, as an average, this is something you're seeing more and more and more. And I pick up women's magazines and it's like, divorce your husband. It's so much fun. Your life will be great. And I was reading a statistic where the vast majority of divorces are now women. And their girlfriends tell them, go get a divorce. It's like getting a new, winter coat or something. It's like getting a new car. It's so great. Get rid of him. You don't need him. And then women aren't fulfilled under the system. Men aren't either. And they're so incredibly angry on average. And then Michelle Obama's on TV saying, don't use the word bossy. It refers to women. That's like saying brown bags put down brown people. It's like if I drove a brown car, nothing to do with it. It's everybody's so hypersensitive and literally mentally ill to the point of where we just say, look, we'll do whatever you say, just don't call us racist, homophobic, or sexist. And I'll be honest, I wasn't brought up to be racist. I wasn't brought up to be against gay people. I wasn't brought up to be against anybody. But when the BBC has the headline, bossy, should we ban it? And Michelle Obama chimes in and says, yes. I mean, this is pure authoritarianism. And authoritarianism can come in the form of a white male. It can come in the form of a black female. It can come in the form of a Hispanic female or male. But it just so happens in the socialist paradigm model, and you can look at this in the Soviet Union, you can look at this in current systems, they choose women to be the mate of the state. And that's why they say, look, if you're a woman with kids anywhere in the world, you want to come here, you can get here, unless it's from a Western nation. If you're from Australia, Scotland, Germany, Switzerland, it's on record. I mean, it's in the news that they will not let you move here because they don't want high-skilled people. It's hard to move here if you're from Japan. They don't want high-skilled people who have a history of thinking they have some rights. They want women who will immediately plug into the state, immediately trust the state, and I want to tell Hispanics something. And this is really almost an oxymoron because Hispanics are, on average, a mix between Spaniards, Portuguese, and Native Americans of Central South America and North America. You know, just like, I mean, you could claim I was Hispanic by that yardstick because I have so many Native American bloodlines from having ancestors from, you know, the early days of this country. Almost everybody ended up intermarrying with Native Americans at one point. And it's just basically everybody in my family, especially my dad's side, has Cherokee, Comanche, you name it, Seminole, Red Stick. I mean, I guess I'm really Hispanic. I mean, if you wanted to, because if that's what Hispanic is a European with a native. I mean, that's what Spaniards are. I mean, Spaniards 1,000 years ago in the paintings and the drawings were blonde-haired, blue eyes. They were basically Germans. And then the North African Arabs invaded. So in southern Spain, you get some of that pretty black hair and, you know, that exotic look and all the rest of it. But I mean, so I guess you could claim those people are Hispanic if you want to say any European mixed with anybody who's Asian. That's what an Arab is a European mixed with an Asian, mixed with some African. I mean, this is just a fact. The Arabs, on average, are about half Asian. They're basically Chinese. And the genetics of a Mesoamerican, a pure Mayan, is a Chinese person. I mean, you can look this up in genetics. It's even in mainline publications. So that's why they even get the Mongolian spots. A Hispanic baby, if they're more native, will have big purple spots down their back, and they get their kids taken by CPS all the time. You know, my sister's adopted Korean, and, you know, until she was about 2, she had big purple spots down her back, and that's an Asian trait. She's South Korean. And, you know, my parents routinely had to get called into swim team, or she still sometimes was about 4, actually. Or was it 2? I forget. The point was, I remember some of the daycare, when they put her in there part-time or whatever, I remember they had issues with it, explaining, no, these are Mongolian spots. And then that was racist, because we'd adopted a Asian, but to then say there's something called a spot, information is racist, you have to understand. You have to understand that. In fact, ignorance is what political correctness is, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how I went off on that long jag, but I wanted to explain something to you. Hispanics, if you like what's been done to the black community, going from lower illegitimacy than the white community in the 40s to the highest ever known, over 90%, if you like the highest prison population for a group ever known, if you like the lowest test scores ever known in this country, if you like the most poverty, the highest murder rate, and basically total societal collapse like we've seen in the black community, that the globalists literally, on record, the Democratic Party engineered in by getting the women and saying, kick the men out of the house, and then you're going to get a full welfare ride. That's what's being offered out of the hand of Obama and Robert Rodriguez here in Austin, Texas tonight. And then Robert Rodriguez and Barack Obama will sit and perch with the Democratic Party. The Republicans just want to bankrupt everything and have cheap labor and bring down the country as well. I mean, they're all the same elite. But the Democrats run the local law firms that legalize all the illegals and run all the scams and suck the money out of them publicly. They run all this, okay? And so if you want to look like what's been done to the inner city black communities, believe me, you're going to really like what Big Brother does to you. So the hand you're being offered lovingly, and it's the same thing of all poor people. You take some poor East Texas person on welfare, and you take some poor East Texas Hispanic on welfare, and some poor black from East Texas on welfare. And actually, I got family in East Texas. I go to, I mean, they're all together now. We're going to talk about equality. They're all together now. It'll be a bunch of 300